I don't know if you heard, but the Broncos did something really
Hilarious.
groundbreaking today. Really,
Hilarious.
really amazing today. And what they did, Patrick, was drop the first official depth chart
Not
of the
official.
season.
Not
And
official.
you know what? Well, whatever it is, it's about as useful as a person without feet wearing shoes. This is altitude adjustment.
Hey, feel I'm in the mood for a switch up. I hit the function, hit the rose till I hiccup. I hit the stage and leave with money that's a stick up.
Before we get into the depth chart talk, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on it because it's Sean Payton trolling everybody. We're going to run through it, Pat. You know, you and I are going to play a fun little game called Slap or Cap, where you're going to tell me if the actual depth chart slaps or if it's all cap from Sean Payton. But first, as it pertains to the depth chart, one guy that we do not see on there, unfortunately, is Kaden Sterns. Now, you and I have been very vocal on this program and on others about how big of fans we were of Kaden Sterns and still are. And if you need any sort of indication as to how good of a player he is, he was claimed immediately. The Carolina Panthers, who had first waiver wire order, claimed him. And so Kaden Sterns on his way to Carolina, reuniting with Ejiro Evero. Give me your
I
thoughts
like
on
that.
this, Patrick. I'm still trying to wrap my head around why they did this.
Well, I mean, Sean kind of laid it out. It was just about, the guys on the depth chart, guys in the room. And I was listening to Brandon Krisztal on Broncos Country tonight, and he kind of mentioned maybe this is one of those scenarios where they got everything that they could out of this guy. There were apparently some concerns about him not being aggressive enough, which is kind of a theme that, from everything that we've heard, that this defense wants to get to, is being a more aggressive, downhill attacking defense. And maybe they just felt like Kaden, coming back from that injury, didn't fit what they were looking for and wanted to give him an opportunity to go somewhere else and be a better fit for a different program. And if, he lands in Carolina and he ends up sticking onto that roster, hey, that's great for them. That's a big get. He's familiar with Evero, and he's got that familiarity there. So I think it's a good move for Kaden. I think that for the Broncos, it's an interesting one because of the depth that you have in this room. And I mean, everybody's been talking about like JL Skinner, and if he's been doing better in practices, that's fantastic. From the clips that I saw, I didn't really love what I saw, but I haven't seen a ton of defensive clips over the last few practices, so things might have gotten better. But I think that it's just an interesting one given the depth in this room. I don't think that this spells a Justin Simmons reunion. That dude is most likely going to be an Indianapolis Colt for all we know. But yeah, it's just like looking at the depth chart right now, like Brandon Jones, that's your big free agent signing. PJ Locke, like both guys that we're pretty excited about. But then after that, it's like, there's not a lot of experience. Turner Yell is going to be coming off of that ACL. We don't even know what he's going to be looking like. And he was mostly a special teamer last year. So that's the big thing, is who's going to fill those special team snaps. You're going to have to rely on JL Skinner, and Sean kind of talked about giving JL a lot of those looks in this preseason. And I hope that he does. I hope that he can show better than what he did last year in pass coverage and in run support. I think that he could be a really great fit because he's a big physical safety, was really good in pass coverage his last season at Boise State. So the tools are there and the physicals are there. Like, this could be a Cam Chancellor type of safety that we're talking about. And if you need someone who can fill in as like a hybrid linebacker type of role, or on special teams like Payton also alluded to in his press conference, JL Skinner is going to be one of your guys. Devon Key is also another guy that we've heard about, who's made some big strides. And then, Omar Brown, the undrafted free agent out of Nebraska, he's got a little bit of promise, but it was a surprising move for sure. Going to miss Kaden tremendously. I felt like he was a really good player when he showed those flashes, but got to stay healthy, got to stay on the field, and just an unfortunate way to end it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. You're right. You have to stay healthy. But I want to address this because once the news broke, I think it was yesterday, right? I had quote tweeted it and said, this doesn't make any sense. And so, of course, I got a lot of responses talking about his health. Let me tell you why that is not, to me, a logistical reason why you release him. First of all, he was a 5th-round pick. He's on his rookie deal. So why not just string him along? At least let him play in 1 or 2 preseason games and see what he's
right.
Like it's the risk reward for me that doesn't make any sense. It's like he wasn't really taking any reps. Like he was working back in 7-on-7. He was back healthy, but they were easing him in just to kind of see how his body responded. It's like the worst case scenario of this situation, if you keep him, is he gets hurt again and you're on the hook for what, $1 million? Like it's inconsequential when you're talking about the total amount of money paid. And then best case scenario, Pat, is he's one of your starting safeties. He strings together a phenomenal season where instead of getting those flashes that we've seen from him, that he's able to put it together for a whole season, and it makes your defense exponentially better. And maybe the biggest question mark here is the fact that that entire safety room is a big question mark. We really like PJ Locke, and again, we've seen flashes from him, but he's never been a full-time safety. Like in relief duty of Kareem Jackson, he looked fantastic, but we don't know how his game translates over the course of an NFL season. We assume it's going to be good, but you're basing it off of an assumption. Brandon Jones, he plays a very specific kind of box safety type of role, which is different from Kaden. So bringing him into the conversation doesn't really hold water because they're 2 different players, and he's hurt. Like you said, Delarian Turner-Yell, from what we saw from him on defense last year, left a lot to be desired. Going to be a core special teamer, but not necessarily at this point a guy that you want playing defense. JL Skinner, again, yeah, he's been playing better, but he played almost no defensive snaps last year. And so you're riding into the season really with a bunch of unknowns after having one of the most stout, experienced safety rooms in the entire NFL. It's a seismic shift. So at the end of the day, I don't want to hear the injury thing, because releasing him because he's been hurt in the past doesn't make any sense, because he's trending towards being healthy. So that's not a logistical reason why you would release him. Because again, if he were to get hurt again, you're not on the hook for that much money. In fact, had that were to happen, you're probably paying him an injury settlement and then releasing him. And the injury settlement's not going to be that much money. So this move is still confounding to me. Whatever Brandon Cristal was saying, that doesn't cut it for me.
Absolutely.
It's personal. It feels personal, Pat. And I have no idea on the situation, but this is just one of those things that it feels like there's something a little bit deeper that we're probably never going to know unless Kaden were to share the information with us. Yeah. It just felt weirdly personal to me. There's almost no risk with a high reward. And again, if he works back from that injury, you can't make the claim that he's injury prone, because there are a lot of players on the team. Are you going to release Tim Patrick because he hasn't played the last 2 seasons? Oof. So again, that argument doesn't hold water. But anything else you want to say before we transition?
Yeah, I mean, I think with his injury, obviously, you brought up a great point. We might not know the real we haven't even played our first preseason game yet. You're not going to give this guy snaps in the preseason, and maybe if you were planning on getting rid of him, you're not going to show that he's healthy and that he can play, and then go get a conditional 7th-round pick or something. It just seemed I don't know. He mentioned trading in the press conference when he was asked about it, and it's well, wouldn't it make more sense to get him more looks? But then what if you do play him and then he gets hurt, and it's just a whole thing. But it definitely is odd. He's only played 587 snaps in 3 years. And it's rough, man. Like, he showed so many great flashes when he was available, and he looked like he could be a legit dude in the secondary, and it's just unfortunate. It really is. But I don't know. I don't know about the whole, if injuries was their main concern, or him coming back from, I know patellar, we were talking about it in the group chat today, like patellar injuries are really, really tough to come back from. And it just kind of, maybe it depends on something that the coaches saw in practice, or, whatever, but still it sucks, and wish the best for him. I hope he kills it in Carolina. They got some great secondary guys over there, but yeah, it's definitely interesting considering Denver's current safety situation. I wanted to point out something though. I wanted to point out this comment down below, the Denver Shadden comment. I got friends who follow other teams all talking to me about Knicks and their concerns. I told them it's all part of the plan. What concerns are we talking about exactly? Like, I want to know, because I have friends who also have seemed poised to like ask me about, I heard Bo Nix sucks, and I heard Bo Nix stinks, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, but who the fuck did you hear that from? Because he's been lighting it up.
If it's concerns from fans of other teams, Pat, then realistically, their concern would be that Bo Nix is going to light the league on fire. Look, we'll talk about Bo Nix. In fact, we'll just use this as a transition, Pat, to talk about the depth chart. In case you haven't seen it, and maybe this is what they're talking about, Bo Nix is listed as third on the depth chart. Let's just clear this up right now.
Sean Payton's a menace. Sean Payton is a menace.
He's trolling. He's trolling the local media. He's trolling the national media. He does this all the time, Pat. Like,
he did it last year too.
Or at the bottom of the depth chart. He literally said today, I didn't want to make a depth chart. I had to make a depth chart. It took me 5 minutes. If that doesn't tell you to not take this seriously, then I don't know what will. The concerns for Bo Nix, we've addressed them, but let's touch on them. Let's get it out of the way. He's not third on the depth chart. Zach Wilson is. And the snaps and like what teams they're running with in practice is the indication. Bo Nix has run with the ones more than Stidham, more than Zach Wilson. I don't think Zach Wilson has run with the ones for a week and a half. Zach Wilson will be on the practice squad. They'll keep him around in case they need a third string quarterback. So. You don't want to keep two quarterbacks on an active roster because that's a roster spot that's not going to use, right?
Yeah.
Your concern with Bo Nix as like an opposing fan is what, that like he doesn't have the strongest arm. I've seen his arm. I saw him throw a ball 60 yards rolling to his right without setting his feet on a dot. The arm strength is not an issue. He's reading defenses already better than Zach Wilson, who has the most starts out of all of the quarterbacks and was a second overall pick. He's reading the defenses almost as well as Stidham. He's running the offense almost as well as Stidham, who has been in this offense for an entire season and offseason. So the fact that he's already measuring on the same level as Jarrett Stidham from a mental standpoint tells me that I have absolutely nothing to worry about from Bo Nix. So let's just play this game, Pat, okay?
Yeah.
As a Bronco fan and as an Oregon fan and as a Bo Nix fan, like, what would be a concern for you regarding Bo Nix as it stands today, based on everything that you knew about him from Oregon and everything that you've seen from him so far in camp? What exactly is the concern? And we're talking about a rookie quarterback. See, more of a concern would be that J.J. McCarthy is lighting up the third team, and Viking fans think that he's the second coming. And I like J.J. McCarthy, but I think that's a bigger concern than anything that has to do with Bo Nix. What do you think?
Okay, so me being the ever hypercritical person that I am, I think the only things that I would really consider to be concerns for Bo Nix going into this season is lack of NFL playing experience. Duh, he's a rookie. Outside of that, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, I have seen just about everything under the sun when it comes to, like, there's certain things with his mechanics that we could talk about, but like, he looks like he's fixed it. He's always had pretty clean mechanic. These last couple of years at Oregon, he really cleaned up his footwork. There's still times when he can get a little jittery, a little eager to leave the pocket. And then there's sometimes where he'll stay in the pocket and keep his eyes downfield and not think about that timing. That clock. I always tell my high school quarterbacks, like 1, 2, 3 balls out or you're gone. Like that's the way that it has to be. And there's sometimes where, he could get a little, he'd get a little too caught up in the clock. Right. But the biggest thing that I've seen, the biggest knock on Bo has been, he just does check downs and screens, and that's how he got all of his yards. Explain to me this, Mario.
That's what Justin Herbert did too, for the record.
Well, and if you're a smart person and you live in the real world, you'll go back and you'll look at Justin Herbert's junior year and then go look at his senior year and be like, what the fuck happened? Well,
that's a different guy.
What happened was they changed OCs and the OC wanted him to throw more shallow passes. Weird. It's almost like the play caller is the one who makes that decision, and then the quarterback is supposed to go out there and execute. It's not the quarterback's job to just go out there, and it's not Madden. You don't have fucking 5 audible plays that pop up on the screen and you just get to choose from one because it's one that I know that works.
And then everyone automatically knows what you're doing in real time.
Yeah. So the big knock that I've seen is that Bo can't throw past 10 yards. He can't throw over the middle. That is completely false. 100% false. And why do we know this, Mario? Go look at Troy Franklin's stats from the last 2 years. Just last season, 56 targets for Troy Franklin from medium and deep routes. 56 targets, 36 catches on those 56 targets, 12 touchdowns. Who was throwing him the ball? Oh, that's right. It was Bo Nix. So
it was Big Nick's energy throwing him the ball.
The concerns that he doesn't have the arm strength. He was the whatever 6th quarterback taken, blah blah blah. Like, okay, there could be 6 quarterbacks taken. The 6th guy might be better than all of the top 5. You literally don't know. Jordan Love could arguably be considered the best quarterback in his class, and he was taken deeper than Bo Nix was. He wasn't the 6th quarterback off the board, but he fell to damn near out of the first round. Lamar Jackson was taken at the end of the first round. Like, just because the quarterback is taken at a certain spot,
that position means nothing.
It means absolutely fucking nothing. Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, you could go all throughout history and look at these examples of quarterbacks who were taken later than the top guy in the class and go on to have a good career. It's about where you land. It's about the personnel that you have, and it's about the coaching staff that you get. And I'm going to tell you, if there was anyone who was meant to have a really good coach at the NFL level, it was Bo Nix. He's the coach's son. He's worked his ass off to, go to Auburn. You want to see who Bo Nix is? Go watch the season opener when he was a true freshman. Who did they play? Mario? You remember?
Someone good, I assume.
Justin Herbert and the Oregon Ducks. And he came back in the 4th quarter and he won that game as a true freshman.
So are you telling me that Bo Nix, as a true freshman, started in the SEC?
Yeah, that very well known.
But it's pretty good.
This kid can play quarterback, and I think what we're seeing from him in camp, albeit nobody's raving and wilding about these insane throws that Bo Nix is making. He's just marching his teams down the field and executing the game plan the way it is supposed to. Why is that so bad?
What noteworthy quarterback did that all last year and won a Super Bowl doing it?
Won a Super Bowl with a lower ADOT than Easton Stick? I love that stat. Anytime anyone brings up ADOT, I'm like, this guy won a Super Bowl throwing 7 yards.
Sometimes you just have to run the offense and
Yes.
matriculate the ball downfield and put the ball in the end zone when you need to.
Yeah.
This is how it is. That is the catalyst of a Sean Payton offense. It is efficient. It is self-sustaining. You are going to take occasional shots, but at times, Pat, it's going to be boring. It's going to feel like a boring game, and then you're going to blink and you're going to be like, when the hell did we score 35 points? When the hell did we score 41 points? It comes at you fast, and that is the kind of offense that Sean Payton wants to run. And before we move on, I want to circle back to the fact that at Radio Row during the Super Bowl, Drew Brees, the legendary Hall of Fame quarterback who helped make Sean Payton and vice versa, said that the offense that he saw last year with Russell Wilson under Sean Payton was unrecognizable. Yeah. Why? Not because Sean Payton had it out for Russell Wilson, and if you're still one of those people, grow up, okay? Because Russell Wilson is struggling in Pittsburgh. Turn the blinders off, all right? Drew Brees said that offense was unrecognizable because Sean Payton had to change it to cater to Russell Wilson, to try so hard to make it work. Yep. This is why he wanted Bo Nix. He's a student of the game, and compared to every other quarterback in that draft, from what we have heard, he was the most ready between the ears. Is it because of his college experience? He had started the most games ever? Probably, maybe. But it's also his work ethic. It's also how he understands the offense. He's going to be able to do things pre-snap, and we've already seen it in practice, Pat. He's calling out protections during practice. He's allowing his running backs to pick up blitzes. He's changing plays. He's like the things that he's doing in practice. In practice, Russell Wilson did not do at all, almost hardly ever throughout the course of the season. And a quarterback has to do that. But Peyton Manning is the greatest quarterback of all time. Don't at me because of what he did pre-snap. That's why I'm not worried about Bo Nix next. Yeah. He's at the bottom of the depth chart. So is Audric Estime. So is Devon Vele. So is Troy Franklin. So is Jonah Ellis. So is Chris Abrams-Drain. That's just all of the rookies are bringing up the rear. And all of those guys are making the team. Spoiler alert, Devon Vele is making this team. I'll be absolutely shocked if he's not. Ooh. He's been outperforming Troy Franklin. Franklin's been getting better, but it hasn't really been close, if we're being perfectly honest. So let's get into this. So we're gonna play slap or cap. Okay. So I'm gonna give you a depth chart position. We already covered quarterback, so we're good there. Yep. You tell me, slap. Like does that slap, or is it a cap from Sean Payton? We're gonna start with your boy Alex Forsyth, who is listed at number 2 on the depth chart. Even though I will say, and I've said this a lot, from where I saw him at camp, he was noticeably better than Luke Wattenberg, who was penciled in as the number 1 center. So with Wattenberg at starting center, is that a slap or is that cap?
Mario, I'm going to need you to turn me up here. I'm going to need you to turn me all the way up, because that is absolute cap. I have heard from multiple people that Alex Forsyth is noticeably better than Luke Wattenberg, and that's fine. If Wattenberg starts this first game, with the first team, great, fantastic. We'll see. We'll probably talk about that a little bit later on. That's going to be something that I'm watching in this game. But I just think the relationship is too big. You've got a guy who understands the offense very well. You've got a guy who is a difference maker in the run game. Sean has been talking about all season getting back to the run game. I think this is. I've seen Wattenberg block, dude. I saw him get his shit pushed in. Come on, and that was at guard. No hate to him. I think that he still has some development to go. But I just think we saw a lot from Forsyth. That last year at Oregon, especially in the run game, and it fits. It fits what Sean wants to do. I'm going to say cap.
Next, wide receiver 2 right now, technically, is Tim Patrick. Cortland Sutton 1, Tim Patrick 2, Josh Reynolds 3, Marvin Mims 4. So right now, Tim Patrick, number 2 wide receiver. I mean, they have 2 starters, right? So we'll just call them 1A and 1B. So Tim Patrick, 1B. Marvin Mims behind Tim Patrick. Josh Reynolds behind Cortland Sutton. Do you buy Tim Patrick right now as a starting receiver on the opposite side? Like, let's say they just go 2 receiver set, first play of the game.
Yeah.
It's Cortland Sutton and it's Tim Patrick. Does that slap or is it cap?
Shout out to the Tim Patrick hive. I think this one slaps, dude. Tim is he is a dog, dude. He deserves to be a starter.
They tried to write him off, Pat. He said,
nah, Tim, dude, Tim's one of my favorites. And this is like vindication. For like thinking schematically, let's say you're in 12 or 21 personnel, whatever. You've only got 2 receivers out there. I wouldn't be mad if Tim Patrick was my Z. I'm going to be honest. He's not your typical, like, he's got the X size, but he's got Z quickness and speed. He's physical, so I can still run my run sets out of it. I can still, play action is a big thing there. He's a great route runner, knows how to find the sticks, especially on like 3rd and long situations. He's a guy that you have to have out there, really sure-handed. Like I said, physical guys, not afraid to go across the middle. So yeah, would not hate that at all. If Tim Patrick was my starting Z in 21 or 12. And this one absolutely slaps.
Here's something that caught my eye, and I thought it was interesting. We've kind of been penciling in Levi Wallace as the cornerback that'll start opposite of Patrick Surtain. Mm-hmm. A lot like Fabian Moreau last year, a journeyman corner. He's solid, good ball skills. He's not going to do anything, really jaw-dropping. He'll get beat kind of, I don't want to say routinely, but more than he should.
Yeah.
But right now, Levi Wallace is listed at left cornerback behind Pat Surtain. Mm-hmm. And it's starting right cornerback. This always cracks me up. And I said this in our group chat earlier. The fact that Sean Payton does this is just like a middle finger to everybody. It's like, this is how you know it's a joke. Because on the depth chart, it says Damari Mathis or Riley Moss. And he did the same thing at inside linebacker. So Alex Singleton is one of the starting inside linebackers. The other, it says Jonas Griffith or Cody Barton. Mm-hmm. And it's just like he didn't even take the time for an ultimately arbitrary exercise for Sean Payton. And he's saying or. So let me ask you this. The first one, putting both Damari Mathis and Riley Moss above Levi Wallace, does that slap or is that cap?
I think that this one is cap. I think this one's big cap because correct me if I'm wrong, but we've seen a lot of Levi Wallace across from Pat Surtain at camp. No,
almost exclusively. And the only thing I can think, Pat, like I know he's dealing with a hamstring right now, so I don't know if it was like a ceremonial demotion on the depth chart.
No, I don't think it's like that. I think this is honestly, and let's go into like real sicko mode here. When we're talking about Sean Payton and the type of person that he is, and the mind games that a coach would play on their players to like motivate them, right? You go to the depth chart, you look like every player looks, they want to know. And you're Damari Mathis or you're Riley Moss, and you look at that board and it shows you as a starter. Just the fact that it shows you at a starter, you're like, okay, that's how they see me. But then you see the or, and then it's like, what the fuck does that mean?
Oh, bet that. Okay.
Like, this is a little push. And I think we're going to see quite a bit of Damari Mathis and Riley Moss outside in this first game. I think we're going to see Chris Abrams drain, but Sean alluded to him playing outside in. And
he's on the depth chart is technically listed as the outside.
So interesting that there's only 3 guys listed for right corner, but you've got 4 guys listed at left. I mean, just interesting to me. But I think this is him trying to fuel the fire, either under Damari Mathis or under Riley Moss or under both of them, to say, show me what you can do. Show, like Damari Mathis's case, show me that you can improve. Show me that you've been taking this offseason in camp seriously. Show me.
So someone proved that they're better than the other two guys.
And in Riley Moss's case, it's like, show me why we traded up for you. Mm-hmm. Show me why you're worth a roster spot. I know you can play special teams better than 27 can, but show me you can play. I think this is genius. It's psychotic, but it's going to motivate them. And
it's mind games.
Yeah,
absolutely. And one thing I did want to say, I asked Pat Surtain about some of the corners and if there's anyone to keep an eye on, and he singled out Reese Taylor specifically. And it was funny because at first he didn't remember his last name, but it's okay because he calls everyone by their first name. He's a very personable guy. So I was asking him about some of the corners. How does the corner room look? He was really high on Taylor, and so I'm starting to wonder, clearly if Pat Surtain thinks that you are a good corner, he told me he should make this active roster. So I was like, wow, I was like, you don't think he's just a practice squad guy? And he's like, he's good enough to be he should be on the active roster. So that makes me think maybe they want Chris Abrams drain outside because if they like Reese Taylor that much, obviously already have Jaquan McMillan and they're high on Chris Abrams drain, drafted him relatively high or liked him enough to draft him.
Yeah.
And maybe they would prefer him outside where they are weaker. Just makes you think. Last one that I want to ask you about, and I think that I know the answer, but right now, Samaje Perine listed as the backup running back ahead of Jaleel McLaughlin, even though McLaughlin has had a fantastic camp. Looks like he's actually pass blocking a little bit better. Now, his pass blocking prowess will never be more than average, right?
Yeah.
He's just not big enough.
Yeah.
But he's showing more of a willingness to block. And if you can believe it, Pat, he actually looks a little bit faster. His first step looks quicker. His change of direction looks more decisive. Really. Just watching, if you don't know who they are and what their circumstances are, Jaleel McLaughlin is very much outplaying Samaje Perine. You factor in that he's probably going to be one of the kick returners that they get back there, or he's certainly a very good option to do it. Whereas Perine, they've put him back there a few for drills, but there's no way you're going to see Samaje Perine returning kicks.
No.
So Samaje Perine as running back 2 over Jaleel McLaughlin and technically Audric Estime, slap or cap?
This one's tough. This one's I think it's both. It's both a slap and a cap. Here's the thing. This is the depth chart that he carried into the end of the season. That's essentially all this is. And I think that the top 3 is more vindictive of his offense and how these guys are used rather than their actual ranking, right? Javonte Williams, that's your main back. Samaje Perine is, you can bring him in on second down. He could get a few yards, or you can use him in short passing situations. And then Jaleel McLaughlin was your change of pace guy, right? So last year, Williams, Perine are your top 2. McLaughlin was the change of pace. That's kind of always how his running back rooms have operated. So that it doesn't surprise me. I think we all know that Jaleel McLaughlin has gotten a lot better. I don't see Samaje Perine on this roster, probably even after this first preseason game. So I think it's pretty clear. Audric Estime is likely going to fill that Samaje Perine role, but it would be Williams, Estime as 2A and McLaughlin as 2B, and then either
trade Perine to Dallas, trade Perine in a 7th to Dallas for a 6th, and call it good.
Yeah,
everybody comes out a winner.
I just think it's too crowded.
Perine. He just doesn't have a role on this team.
Yeah, no, and it's just hard. And he's older. We're probably not the ideal situation. this team wants to get younger. He's an older guy. He's a vet. He's been around. He's got playoff experience. Like, he's probably going to want to go to a contender. So yeah, Dallas, even like go back to Cincinnati.
Go back to Cincy. Yeah.
You know, like, hey, if the Browns come calling again, pick up the phone, baby.
We actually have some breaking news. Thank you so much, Broncos Rotary. I'm honored. Mario Vitanzi has now been listed as QB1 of the Broncos, and this should stand as proof that this depth chart is a joke.
Read it right, Mario.
Real quick, because
your cousin Mario Vitanzi.
Pat and I want to preview the first preseason game as best we can, as best you can with a first preseason game. But really quick, I wanted to tell the story, and I know you remember probably better than I do. It was a couple of years ago, and Pat had tweeted out that the Broncos signed me, Mario Vitanzi, too. It was like a 5-year deal for $5 million.
Yeah, 5 years, $5 million deal.
Like, clearly laughably fake. It somehow goes viral. And these responses, they made me feel really bad about myself until I realized it was a joke. But this is how uninformed football fans are. These people go, I've never heard of this fucking guy. He sounds terrible. Great. If I've never heard of him, what college did he even go to? We probably got him from the XFL. He sounds like he's ass.
No,
we're so bad. Or
you know what's the funniest?
They're like, is he good? Is he good?
The funniest part was it got onto like the Denver Broncos fan Facebook page. And like people on there, dude, I could probably go back and look. It was hilarious. People were so convinced. They were like, I've never heard, so many people, I've never heard of this guy. Who is this? Like, probably sucks. Like,
arguably the stupidest fans. And I just like not just that you're on Facebook, that those fans are like exclusively on Facebook, are easily at any team. The dumbest fans for any franchise are exclusively on Facebook. So fair warning, if you're watching this and you only get your Broncos content from Facebook, get an Instagram, get a Twitter, figure out who to follow, because if you're getting information from Facebook, it's probably stupid and it's probably wrong. Anyway, expectations for the first preseason game, like we alluded to, I think P. Ryan's going to get just a ton of run. I think they're going to build him up. They want to showcase him. They want to get something for him. I think they'll ultimately end up releasing him, but if they can convince a team to float him a late round pick instead of releasing him, then, fantastic. Yeah. What else are you expecting? Give me like some expectations and then some hopes. Like, what do you hope to see aside from Anthony Richardson? Because I think you and I were Anthony Richardson's biggest fans of him coming out of Florida. And God, I hope we see him for at least one series.
I don't know if we will. I mean, he's been coming back, but I also heard today that he was not very good in camp yet. So they might give him.
He's a gamer, Pat.
I know.
He's a gamer,
but they might just want to wait. It might be Flacco time. No, I think. I was reading this comment while you were talking, and I think really what my expectation is that the offense just moves the ball well. We know Stidham is going to be taking that first team, so we'll see how long he plays. I think Russ played a half in the first preseason game last year, right?
Well, yeah, because it was at Arizona, and they didn't. I remember I talked to some of the guys; they didn't want him to play that much. And he didn't look nearly as good as Sean Payton wanted him, and he just kept leaving him in there until they scored a touchdown against Arizona's third string off defense.
Yeah, and that's just that's embarrassing. And we should have known. We should have known from that.
Jerry Jeudy cooked a car salesman with a double move, and they're like, "All right, you can come out now."
Yeah, I think my expectation is that this offense moves the ball. My expectation is that whether you just have a good drive and get down in the field goal range, and then we can get a good look at special teams. I think as long as you're moving the ball and you put up points, if they put up points in the first drive, boy, that's going to be a big sign, even if it is Stidham. But I think the other expectation is that we do see Bo Nix for probably
maybe a quarter or two, probably 2 quarters.
I would love a half of football. Give me 2 quarters.
Yeah.
Give me a half of football
for sure.
Of Bo Nix.
Let him run it. Let him run a 2-minute drill.
Yes, exactly. Let's see him play the second quarter, so he can get the 2-minute drill, and then let's see him come out of the half and see how well he does with adjustments, because they'll go into the half, and Sean's going to treat this like every other game. So there's going to be halftime adjustments. We'll see if he can come out, make the adjustments, run the offense smoothly, and then put up points somehow. And then by the end of the third quarter, if he's had a couple successful drives, it'll be Zach Wilson time, and we'll get to see some fun football at that point. That's going to be a lot of fun. My other expectation, my last one, is that we get a good look at the other corner spot. I think that has to be, I want to see what the rotation is. I want to see whether it's Damari gets 2 halves and Moss gets 2 halves, if that's the way that they're going to play it, because Wallace isn't going to play. So that's going to give them plenty of opportunity, and, sprinkle Abrams drain outside a little bit as well. Let him get some run outside. But I expect them to have a good, solid rotation at that position. So those are my expectations.
And I'm really curious to see who starts that opposite corner. I assume the main starters, the guys that are locked in. Your Pat Surtains, Baron Brownings, Jonathan Coopers, Alex Singletons, guys like that. They'll get a series, maybe 2. But I want to know who the first corner is out there. And this is why the depth chart is so funny, where it's saying because eventually you're going to have to pick one or the other. It has to be Cody Barton or Jonas Griffith. You can't just have both of them theoretically out there and be like, let's just keep you out there both together and see if you can coexist. Someone has to start. Someone actually has to play in that position. And the other question, Pat, let's say theoretically it's Damari Mathis. Yeah. Does that mean that Damari Mathis is penciled in as cornerback 2, or is it more of an indication of we need to see more from you than we do from Riley Moss? So that's something to consider. Just because one of these guys that's on the block, not necessarily a starter, someone that's not locked in, in a position battle, they might be starting because the coaches want to see more from them. If Riley Moss goes out there second, maybe they're thinking, we've seen more from Riley. We don't need to see as much from him. We'll let him get run against the second, third team, etc. We need more from Damari Mathis. So I'm interested to see if maybe that's the approach of how they're handling these position battles. If the starter is the guy that needs to prove something.
Yeah, I think that's completely valid. I think if Damari goes out there with the first team and he balls out, they're gonna weigh it against whatever Riley does in this game. So I think it absolutely is hey, we're going to give you this opportunity. Don't blow it. Don't waste it. Show us that you've improved. I think, who was it? Joey. Did Joey say that he was a little grabby in practice the other day? We saw that. We saw that last year.
That's kind of his game, though.
And it is.
Rookie year last year. That is a big part of his game. And you can be grabby, but you have to learn how to get away with being grabby.
Yeah. You got to have better technique.
Now, this comment's interesting. More than 17 points, please. I can't handle that anymore. You and me both. That's a dreaded number that we never want to see. It's can we just average somewhere in the 20s? Is that asking too much in the 2024 version of the NFL?
I know.
But here's the way that I see the preseason going. And I think there's a lot of interesting dynamics. And say what you want about Zach Wilson. The bottom line is he's definitely the best third-string quarterback in the NFL, okay? Yeah. He's a bad starter. He's probably not ideal as a backup. But for a third-string running back, I think Zach Wilson is going to look really good. In fact, I would wager to say, Pat, with Zach Wilson getting to go out there against guys that are going to work for T-Mobile eventually,
Oh,
that like
stop.
guys that are going to go try to get a job at a bank.
Come
I
on.
think that he's going to look really good. And there's going to be somebody, mark my words, there'll be someone in the stupid Denver sports media who climbs aboard the Zach Wilson train because he's
Oh,
going to look good. Like, I'm
is his name
calling my
also
shot right
Zach?
now that Zach Wilson is going to look awesome in the
Not
fourth
Sears.
quarter against their fifth stringers. And someone's going to be like, well, Zach Wilson looked better than Bo
Like,
Nix and Jared Stidham. Maybe
I
we're
gotta tell
dismissing
you,
him too soon. I
Zach
swear
Wilson
to
looked
you, that's going to
awfully
happen.
good. Zach Wilson looked awfully good. Boy, I gotta say, like,
No, come on.
You're a
Come on.
Aaron, I know what
Stop.
you're doing. And if anyone else knows what you're doing, they love you for it, and I love you for it.
No.
You're
It's not gonna
so out of pocket right now.
it's not gonna happen.
That was very obvious. A certain person at the media, and I
Who?
love you. No, but this is
I was
why I think
that was
it's going
just
to
my
be
normal
interesting.
radio voice.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, you don't sound like you're trying to sound like a national media guy who breaks stories either. Yeah. No, I'm interested to see how our third string offense looks because honestly, Pat, there is a lot of talent. Like, this is a deep wide receiver room. It's not top heavy the way that a lot of wide receiver rooms are. But man, from what we've seen, you could argue that it's as deep as any. Like, there will be 2 or 3 really good wide receivers who do not make this active roster. A guy like Brandon Johnson, who we love and who we think should make the roster,
I know.
according to this depth chart, and take it for what it is, he's going to be on the outside looking in. Like, how many wide receiver spots do they keep? And if it comes down to it, he's going to have to beat out Lil Jordan Humphrey. Like, one of those two guys probably will not make the team. Michael Bandy probably will not be on the active roster, even though he has had a freaking phenomenal
Yeah,
game.
he could probably get picked
Wes
up.
Welker. They have the same build, the same number, the same skin tone. David Sills is actually a former quarterback, has had a really good camp. So as you get down the line, it's like these guys could be on a lot of active rosters as like wide receiver 3, 4, or 5. But because this is a deep wide receiver room, I think they're going to get the chance to ball out. It's going to look a lot like how Stidham looked against the Rams last year, throwing to Alfred Okuwaben, throwing to Brandon Johnson, like guys who like should be somewhere on an active roster. And if you want to see a lot of points, it's like that's why you shouldn't put too much stock into preseason and how many points you're scoring. Because I inexplicably got really excited during that Rams game because I'm like, oh man, they really opened it up. If we do that, like, Russell Wilson's going to be fine. Like, I tricked myself into thinking that a preseason game meant something. Take it for what it is. It is strictly for, developmental purposes for the coaches to see where certain bubble players are at, and it's for your entertainment. Do not take anything away from the preseason that you think is going to be indicative of how they are in the regular season. I think what the Ravens lost a preseason game for the first time last year in like 80 years. It's stupid. A lot of teams, like, they don't care about the win-loss. They care about how the team looks. So if they look really, really good, don't get too excited. If the offense looks boring, the defense looks boring, and you're a little bit worried, don't worry about that either. It's the preseason. Just hope.
It's good.
Number one thing, and we're pounding the table for this. You just want Bo Nix to look like he belongs. Because he will be the opening day starter. If not, he's going to start sooner rather than later. He's probably going to be the second guy out on that field, like we said, Pat. Hopefully he gets a half. Hopefully he has a chance to run a 2-minute drill. You want him to look like he belongs because he will be playing against and with, for what it's worth, guys, like a lot of guys that will not be on an active roster. Most of them will be practice squad guys or cuts. So that's why you want to see him look good. Like, how is his pocket presence? Is he making the checks at the line that he needs to? Is he delivering passes on time? Is his ball placement good? I don't care what Benjamin Albright said, and the only reason he said this is because he put a bet on Jarrett Stidham to be the week 1 starter. He's not throwing a lot of balls behind receivers, okay? That's not a real thing. In fact, there were certain instances, Patrick, that I did see balls a little bit behind the receiver in order to protect them from ongoing DBs. So before we get too wrapped up into that, you just have to, read between the lines and understand that Ben just likes Jarrett Stidham. He has a stiffy for Stiddy, and that's okay. Some people do. He's a very handsome man. Bo Nix is just a better quarterback.
Yeah, I think
really quick, Big E said, you want to get the rookies more reps. Absolutely. I'm not going to put the other thing. He's not fake news, Big E. He's a good person. We like to razz him and have fun.
Don't trust him at all.
You need to trust him. He's a very reliable source.
funny.
Let's not be into there. But anyway, your comment. You need to get the rookies more reps. Let me ask you this, Pat, and then we'll wrap it. What rookie are you most excited to see on Sunday?
I mean,
aside from Bo Nix.
Come on. That's the easy one. Man, I am excited. You know what? I am excited to see Troy Franklin. I'm pretty excited to see him. I want to see if he gets hit with any press, because that's one of the big worries was like his slider frame.
What's your big concern with him coming out?
Yeah, like it's not the big, like he's got a big frame, 6'4", but 180. Like he's not a big dude. He's got some creative releases, like he really does. But I just want to see how he does against press. Let's see. I'm trying to think who else. I'm pretty
Jonah Ellis action.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Jonah. Like, I just feel like he's gonna have such a weird role this year. So, like, I feel like I already know what his role is gonna be. But I think I'm more excited to see Abrams drain. Like, I want to see how he gets used when he gets put in the game, whether that's inside or outside. I kind of want to see where they put him in certain situations. I want to see if he can come downhill and tackle because, this is another guy with size concerns. So,
he was a dog in college.
Yeah,
and he's bigger than his size.
He plays a lot bigger than he's listed, which is very hopeful. I just want to see if he can translate to the next level. But yeah, like I think those are the guys that I'm probably the most excited to see. I just want to see Bo Nix, but I have something to say. I disagree. I have a disagreement with you about the preseason because, and I'll keep this short. I just think that there's certain things that you do need to watch for, like when you're running an offense in these preseason games, because how's the rhythm of the play calling? How are we getting in and out of the huddle? What does our time look like when we're stepping up to get under center? All of those things matter so much. And even in a preseason game where, yes, like at the end of the day, the standings don't really give a shit, right? They don't care. But these are games where you can get small wins and you can stack these wins. Can we get the play call in a good enough time to where Bo can get to the line, make his adjustments, and then execute the play? That's what we need to be watching. So I agree. Preseason games don't matter, but from the coaching aspect and like the overall success of this team, that is what we want to watch. That's what we're looking for. Can we execute? So I'm fucking stoked. I can't wait to watch some fucking Broncos football this weekend, baby. This is going to be awesome. I cannot wait.
It's like Christmas. And it flies out the window very quickly.
It's bad.
Man, preseason is you're psyched, and it's like, man, preseason's kind of brutal, but you know what? It's so fun. I'm really surprised.
I want to see Estime run someone over in this game. I want to see Estime run someone over, dude. I cannot wait. I cannot wait
to see Estime in the open field against a fourth string safety so bad. I wanted to. There's got to be a dude from Furman on that team, right? Like one of these small schools that you've never really heard of. They send one guy to a training camp every 6 years. I want Estime with the full head of steam coming right for this dude. This is what I want to see. That's the biggest thing. And in all honesty, you need to see something like that out of Audric Estime. He's not terribly dynamic, and that's okay. Like, they didn't draft him because he's dynamic. They drafted him. because he's an absolute load. I want to see him, and you said Franklin. I really want to see Vele. Vele was the, like, respectfully, Vele was the butt of a lot of our jokes because he's a guy. He's old enough to eat dinner at 5:30 at Golden Corral. Okay,
little Jordan Humphrey is younger than he is. That blew my mind. That's crazy.
Little Jordan Humphrey has been in the league for like 6 years.
It feels like he's been in the league for so long, and he's.
But we said that he's basically Tim Patrick because they're both from Utah. They're both the same speed, same height, same size. Now he has Tim Patrick's number, and they're the same age. It was a joke, but like also not really, because I think Tim is like maybe a 2 years older than him. And Tim came out late, just like Vele, and there's still. But anyway, all of that aside, I want to see if his performance translates to a game. He's had a phenomenal camp. Like every single practice, he's made plays. And I mean, like whether it's like getting open on a slant route, toe dragging on the sideline, mossing somebody in the end zone. He's done a little bit of everything. And Ryan Edwards had said that they had a 4th round grade on this guy. They were ecstatic that they got to draft him. And I got to tell you, Pat, like you and I do a ton of pre-draft work. We do a lot of scouting. We read about a ton of people, especially if it's a position of need. And I can't tell you how many receivers I researched and watched film on. When they drafted him, I had to Google him. I had no freaking clue who Devon Vele was, which is insane because he looks like he fits in right now. He does not look like a rookie. He's not playing like a rookie, but I want to see that translate to the game. You can have great workouts. You can have great practices. You could be the workout hero. Can you dominate in a game? So I'm really excited to see what Vele looks like in that preseason game. Patrick, God, you're handsome. I can't even stand it. It's so hard for me to focus on these shows. Patriots. I have to look at myself because if I catch myself looking at you, I completely lose my train of thought. And I
Patriots just out.
I divulge into a bumbling idiot.
Did you even hear what I just said?
No.
Did you even hear what I just said? Patriots are out on Ayuk.
Oh, shocker. It's because he wouldn't sign an extension with New England. So
yeah, that's crazy.
Anything before we get out of here, Patrick? What do you got for me?
I'm just excited. I'm excited for the game. Can't wait. It's gonna be awesome.
If you want to show everybody that you have big Knicks energy, make sure that you go to altitudeadjustmentshop.com where we have these beautiful tank tops. If you're not as muscly as me and Pat, that's okay. We work really hard on our bodies. We don't look like this by accident. If you don't have time to go to the gym, I have regular tees. And if you want to cover up even more, I've got sweatshirts for you. Big Knicks energy. We also have shirts that say, I believe. Hop on the Bo Nix hype train right now, because if you wait until 2 months into the season to get this shirt, you're going to look like a bandwagon Bo Nix fan. Get out ahead of it. Make sure you go pick up your swag from altitudeadjustmentshop.com. Use the coupon code BONIX, just BONIX, all one word, on any Bo Nix related swagger, and you will get 20% off. Make sure that everybody you're around knows that you have big Knicks energy. Hey, Mario Vitanzi, that's Patrick Chiodo. This is the best Broncos podcast that's out there right now. We love y'all. Bye-bye. See you next week.
Hey, feel I'm in the mood for a switch up. I hit the function, hit the rose till I hiccup. I hit the stage and leave.